It all began in a small courtroom packed with tension. Emily and Jason, once high school sweethearts, were now sitting on opposite ends of a legal battlefield, fighting over the most precious part of their lives, their 5-year-old daughter, Lily. The story wasn't just about two parents disagreeing. It was about two people who once shared everything, now torn apart by mistrust, resentment, and a legal system neither fully understood. What started as a simple custody petition escalated into a complex case involving accusations, psychological evaluations, and long-forgotten secrets being dragged into the light. Before we dive deeper into this emotional case, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more real courtroom dramas and powerful human stories. We upload fresh episodes daily, and you won't want to miss them. Jason had filed for joint custody, believing it was in Lily's best interest. Emily, however, claimed that Jason's unpredictable behavior and recent job loss made him unfit to share custody. What made things worse? Jason's lawyer introduced surveillance footage of Emily allegedly leaving Lily with a neighbor for long hours without notice. Emily's attorney pushed back hard, presenting school reports, doctor's records, and even a child psychologist who testified that Lily seemed happier and more secure with her mother. The case turned into an emotional roller coaster, not just for the parents, but for everyone in the room. The judge ordered a temporary custody arrangement while evaluations continued. Jason could visit Lily every other weekend, but the bitterness between the two parents only deepened. Outside the courthouse, the media caught wind of the drama. Emily, a local teacher, suddenly found herself being judged not just in court, but in her own community. Meanwhile, Jason took to social media to share his version of the story, a move that only escalated the conflict. As the trial progressed, shocking revelations would emerge, lies would be exposed, and the ultimate question remained: who was truly acting in Lily's best interest? Stay with us. This is a story of heartbreak, courage, and the fight for what really matters: a child's future. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. As the judge returned from a brief recess, eyes darted between the benches, waiting to see which way the decision would start to sway. Sarah clenched the small charm bracelet her daughter had given her, a simple silver heart with the words "Mom Forever" engraved in tiny letters. Across the aisle, Jason sat still, a subtle frown etched into his brow, his attorney whispering something in his ear. The child custody evaluator took the stand. She was a neutral party, appointed by the court, and her report was expected to carry significant weight. Her voice was calm and methodical, but the facts she laid out brought waves of emotion. She spoke of the child's clear attachment to both parents, of how Emily, their 7-year-old daughter, had expressed fear and confusion over the frequent arguments and sudden living arrangements. She explained how Sarah had provided stability, a consistent school schedule, and emotional support, while Jason had made noticeable improvements in his anger management but still struggled with impulsive behaviors. Sarah closed her eyes as the evaluator continued, her heart aching. This wasn't just a case to her. This was her daughter's entire world, hanging in the balance. Then came the turn. The evaluator revealed that Jason had, on multiple occasions, cancelled his scheduled visitations last minute. Sometimes due to work, other times with no explanation. Emily had grown hesitant to pack her overnight bag, unsure if her dad would show up. The courtroom fell silent. Jason shifted in his seat. He had been trying therapy, cutting back on travel, but the truth was, he hadn't been consistent. The judge asked a few questions, carefully noting the evaluator's responses. The moment was heavy. Everyone in the room felt it. When it was Sarah's turn to speak again, she didn't hide her emotions. "I'm not trying to keep Emily from her father," she said, "but I need her to have peace, to know where she'll sleep at night, to not be afraid that someone will forget her. She deserves more than uncertainty." Jason was quiet. For once, no rebuttal. The court adjourned for the day, with the judge requesting both parties to submit a revised parenting plan based on the evaluator's recommendations. Sarah stepped out of the courtroom into the cool evening air, her attorney beside her. "It's not over yet," her attorney warned gently. "But today was a turning point." She nodded. It was a long road, but for the first time in months, she felt like someone had truly listened. And as she walked toward the courtroom now felt like a second home to Emma, though nothing about it ever felt comforting. The legal war waged on, and every session brought a new twist that tugged at her heartstrings. Emma's attorney stood to call their next witness, a child psychologist who had evaluated Lily after multiple sessions. The expert took the stand, and the courtroom fell into a heavy silence as she opened her report. "Lily has shown signs of emotional confusion and distress, particularly when asked to choose between her parents. She exhibits attachment to both, but also anxiety when exposed to conflict between them. She's torn, deeply, and has expressed a desire for peace over placement." Those words hung in the air like a thundercloud. Andrew shifted in his seat, visibly shaken. Emma stared at the floor, blinking away the tears forming in her eyes. The lawyer pressed further, asking if the psychologist had a recommendation. From a psychological standpoint, shared custody with a clearly defined, conflict-free structure would be the best route, but it requires both parents to truly put their differences aside for Lily's well-being. That was the most honest assessment yet, but it didn't stop Andrew's team from painting Emma as unstable, using old text messages and emotional outbursts during the separation as ammunition. Emma's mental health, which she had worked so hard to rebuild, was now being questioned in front of strangers. The opposing counsel even called a neighbor who testified to hearing arguments from their home. Never physical, but loud and frequent. Emma felt her life reduced to evidence and half-truths. After recess, Emma returned to the stand for cross-examination. The opposing lawyer went in hard, questioning her ability to provide, her parenting decisions, and even her therapy sessions. But Emma didn't break. She answered calmly, firmly, and with the fierce love of a mother determined not to lose her child. "I may not be perfect," she said at one point, voice shaking but steady, "but I have loved Lily with every piece of me. I've shown up for every school day, every nightmare, every doctor's visit. That should count for something." The judge watched closely, and so did everyone in that room. Later that evening, Emma walked into Lily's room at her parents' house. Lily was asleep, hugging a stuffed elephant. She sat quietly beside her, whispering, "I'm fighting for you, baby. Not just for time, for peace, for your heart to stay whole." In those moments, Emma realized this wasn't about winning custody. It was about protecting her daughter's sense of safety, identity, and childhood. The next court date would be the turning point. Evidence had been heard, testimonies delivered, and now it was time for closing arguments. The stakes had never been higher, and Emma knew the verdict would shape the rest of Lily's life. She looked out the window, startled. As the final day in court arrived, the tension was unlike anything before. The courtroom was filled not just with legal representatives, but with quiet, anxious energy from both families. Emma and Jason sat apart, no longer exchanging glances, just tired, emotionally spent, and waiting for the judge's words to decide the fate of their little girl, Lily. The judge's voice was calm but heavy with the weight of his decision. He acknowledged the emotional pain, the documented struggles, the contrasting testimonies, and most importantly, the psychological impact on Lily. In a moment that felt like it lasted forever, he finally delivered the decision. Legal custody would be shared, but physical custody, the day-to-day life of Lily, would remain primarily with Emma, with scheduled visitation and therapy support for Jason to rebuild trust and stability. It was a verdict neither side felt was a true victory. It wasn't about winning, it was about minimizing the damage done. Jason lowered his head, tears welling. Emma covered her mouth and wept, not with joy, but with the bittersweet relief that Lily would have consistency and hopefully healing. But beyond the legal outcome, something deeper happened in that courtroom. The proceedings had forced both parents to confront their own behaviors, traumas, and expectations. In a quiet moment after the verdict, Emma walked over to Jason. She didn't say much, just a soft, "Let's try to do better." For her, he nodded. The story made headlines. A custody battle that changed the system. Because of this case, new legislation was introduced in their state mandating earlier mental health evaluations for parents in contested custody cases and funding for child psychologists to attend hearings as advocates. Their personal pain had sparked a wave of reform. Months later, Emma and Jason weren't friends, but they were cooperative, co-parents. They attended Lily's school events together. Jason kept to his commitments. Emma learned to let go of resentment. And Lily, slowly, cautiously, began to smile again. This wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was real life. And in real life, sometimes healing is messy, non-linear, and built in silence rather than celebration. If this story touched you, if it made you think deeper about the people behind the courtroom doors, the parents, the children, the families, then you're exactly the kind of person we hope joins us again. Subscribe to the Verdict Diaries for more true stories of justice, heartbreak, and resilience. Because behind every legal case is a human one. Thank you for watching. Until next time,